Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions. And today's focus, we're going to talk about how you can increase doctor referrals. And we've got Maria Gallery with us here. Maria is actually one of our business development representatives, but before she worked with Practice Promotions, for many years, she was the director of marketing at Spectrum Physical Therapy, where she managed the marketing for 7 outpatient clinic locations. And while she was there, she contacted a minimum of 1,350 referral sources per year and was able to increase Spectrum's referral rate by 30%. So Maria's actually worked not only in as a marketing director in physical therapy clinics, but she's also worked in helping our clients, physical therapy practices and different medical practices with their marketing as one of our digital account managers. So Maria has very well diversified in her background experience here. So Maria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So let's jump in. Let's give some good value here to our listeners. And you were the director of marketing at Spectrum. So what kind of marketing actions were you responsible for while you were there?
Mainly my responsibilities included calling on referring physicians was primary what I did. Finding new referral sources, and that could be referring physicians or other types of referral sources. I produced all the marketing materials and in-house documents, coordinated with and hired outside vendors, directed and managed individual clinic managers' marketing efforts, and then monitoring and analyzing the trends of the marketing efforts that we were all doing as a team.
Well, that sure is a lot there for one person there to coordinate all those things, especially over 7 clinics. So you worked a lot to develop relationships, right, in the community and with different physician groups. And then it sounds like you also worked with the clinic managers to basically leverage their expertise and what you could do to develop those physician relationships and those community relationships from those individual clinics. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. Um, Bottom line, the clinics were even in a small area that we are in, they were in diverse communities.
Hmm.
So it was really important that the clinic directors have contacts and community contact, not just with physicians, but within, the community, the school system, other social programs, et cetera, throughout their particular community that they were serving.
Hmm. Excellent. So you where you are is there were some more rural areas, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So obviously you had to have multiple clinic locations to reach a wide area um, with that. And like you said, when you're in those more small towns, everybody knows everybody, right?
That's
So
right.
you gotta you gotta make those boots on the ground relationships, which brings that goodwill from the community. And so, what were some of the things that you worked on to aside from physician referrals, but like within the community itself, like what are some of the things that you tried to help out there?
So one of the things that we did as a practice was do a lot of work with local high school sports teams. So I would actually, make a point of calling on, coaches, et cetera, to try to facilitate the relationships between the clinic directors as well, with those particular contacts.
Mhm.
But one of the biggest things that I did was we had a brand new YMCA that was opening up, which was a beautiful state of the art gym. And I was able to get in contact with the people who were in charge of operations and get us in the door to be able to do evals there within the facility, run little mini clinics so people could benefit from, specific types of conditions that they were having trouble with. And that really helped cement, kind of our imprint in the community and also help us compete with a local gym that had their own physical therapy practice.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, so in business we have like three main areas here for building business, right? Getting people in the door. And that's going to be your PR, your public relations, your marketing efforts, and then your sales. And so we tend to kind of lump these all together and call it marketing, but they each are three distinct. And actually your PR is your biggest one, right? It's really building that goodwill. What's your brand name? What's the goodwill of that clinic name in the community? And with referring physicians, right? And your patient list and all these different people that have influence over other people that they're connected to and can recommend and refer you. And you're building that good name, that goodwill. It takes some effort, some time, some strategic planning, but the PR efforts are huge. And that's really cool that you looked at obviously school systems, right? And where you can help support team efforts there, and local fitness gyms and things like that are also really important. I think one thing to look at from the clinic side is what are you giving back to the community, right? And how are you, because all these businesses they need support, they need help, they're looking for avenues of things that they can bring into their business. And if you're able to work in some sort of partnership that could be helpful to them, that's going to really build your different doors that can be opened, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that I did was work with I joined a networking group in the city, and that was actually really beneficial because it really allowed a platform for our director to be able to, tout the reasons why Spectrum physical therapy, not just, from a patient perspective, but from a business perspective, in the community, business community as well, was the place to, to go to refer people to, because everybody knows somebody who needs PT,
Yeah,
bottom line.
absolutely. And I would say that
So
those things are even more critical when you do have rural marketing that you're trying to do, because it is about making it seems you still have that within the urban life and the city, right? But when you get into like suburban life and you get into rural life, the connections matter even more. And
absolutely.
I think that's so critical to really focus on as building your business, building your practice. One thing too that is really important in today's world and allows you as you build these relationships is the amount of interlinking within your website, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
so chambers of commerce, sports teams, fitness centers, like if they have their own website and you can have a kind of a reciprocal partnership where you're providing services like, hey, can we put some information about that service here quickly on your website, or just a connection, and you can have your obviously your phone numbers and your names and just a link to your overall clinic. That's going to help you with authority in Google.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big SEO factor. It will also help you with authority from a, user perspective, someone who is looking at the website and sees that you're associated with all these other, you know, important resources within the community.
Yeah, expertise and authority, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, where you can co-partner, like, hey, can we want to help promote your business. So can we put your business logo on our website, have a partner page, whatever it may be there. But all that helps to benefit the other business, and then they look more favorably upon your practice, right?
I agree.
Um, and so, you did a lot of community development there as part of your marketing director role. And then let's talk a little bit about how you helped to increase doctor referrals and what was sort of your strategy there.
So there were several different strategies that I used. One of the things that was really important was consistency. So setting a schedule, making sure that you try to stay within that schedule of who you're going to call on, when you're going to call on them, and how often you're going to call on them. You don't want to be beating their doors down every week necessarily, but every couple of weeks to a month, to remind them, especially if you have some news to share, like if you have a new therapist that specializes in a specific area or condition that that physician treats, you definitely want to get the word out there. Making friends with the front desk staff is key.
Mhm.
You want to make friends with the gatekeepers, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere, no matter who you are. So, donuts never hurt. bringing, leave behinds like pens and magnets and things like that that people can use. But being consistent and also being purposeful in who you're calling on.
Mhm.
So if you try to call on every physician in the community, in a community like ours where there's two hospital systems, you're never going to be able to get there, and you're basically, diluting your efforts. You want to call on the physicians that are treating the patients that you want. So, say, for example, if you want to treat sports injuries or post surgical rehab, call on orthopedic surgeons.
Mhm.
If you want to treat people who have balance issues, vestibular issues, or Parkinson's or things like that, you want to call on, neurologists.
Mhm.
So, being strategic in not only when you call on them, but who you call on is really important.
Yeah, I've certainly visited hundreds and hundreds of doctors marketing my practice over the years, and I think that's so true what you said because I think my mistake when I was doing that early on was that you just try to visit as many people as you can. And that's just not smart because you're just wasting a lot of time and effort for people that may not refer to you or um, like you said, you need the consistency. You need to go back over and over again. You need to build those relationships with the front desk, with the referral coordinators, and then eventually get to the doctor if you need to. Um, so I like what you said there. Be strategic about what do you want to treat in the office and who are the people that could be seen the most. And then I think you have to look too, like certain insurance groups that you want to take, right? So
Absolutely.
um, if you're trying to like go to physician offices and you know that they are on a lot of HMOs and you don't want to take HMOs, then don't waste your time doing that, right?
Exactly.
And so were there any things that you found to kind of build that relationship or even, get through that gatekeeper onto the other side?
Yeah. So when you're approaching a gatekeeper, the whole thing you need to remember is to treat them with the utmost respect that they deserve. You do not deserve their time or their efforts until you have shown them that you bring something of value. And you need to keep in mind that relationship when you first start out. So whether you're a marketing coordinator or a physical therapist, when you meet that gatekeeper, keep in mind to respect their position and why they're the gatekeeper in the first place, because doctors offices get bombarded with people who want to talk to the doctor. So approaching with respect, bringing value to the table, giving them a reason why the doctor should give you their time and why they should get the doctor for you, or
Mhm.
being patient when, they're not available, and, making a point to just kind of keep coming back and touching until you get that opportunity.
Yeah, excellent. And I remember one time I had this one physician that was referring patients to us, and we were just trying to develop that relationship further. And, just always thanking the front desk person for referring the patient, even though the doctor was the person, just thanking the front desk person, like, hey, thank you so much for sending so and so over. She's doing really well. Just wanted, here's a success story that the patient wrote. Let's get that back, if you want to put that in the patient chart. So that got that relationship going with the front desk. And like you said, bring in some goodies now and again for that front
Never
desk
hurts.
is never hurts, right?
That's right. They'll remember the people who bring the bagels or the donuts or,
That's right.
what have you, or the coffee.
And so did you ever do lunch and learns?
I did. I
How did
did.
that work
Those
out?
were really impactful. If you could get a lunch and learn, and it was actually surprising. A lot of practices, especially multiple physician practices, were really amenable to that. And that's your best target, right? Because the more people you have in the room that can refer, the better. But yeah, lunch and learns are an excellent way. They're time consuming, and of course they do cost that there's a little bit of an investment there, but the value of actually having the time to present, why your therapy or why your technique or why your practice is the reason they should refer to you,
Mhm.
is priceless. Um, so
Yeah,
even doing something like that once a quarter is really valuable.
I think so too. The best lunch and learns that I ever did was really like a learn part, and the way I approached it was, hey, would you would I never said the doctor, I'd be like, hey, would you like your medical assistants or your nurses like to know, like we can do a little training here very quickly, very easily on say how to differentiate between a rotator cuff tear and an impingement on the shoulder, or how to differentiate between sciatica and herniated disc. And so they're like, oh, that's interesting, right? And so I just go and do like 5, maybe 10 minutes tops, quick slide presentation on a laptop, but make it simple, bare bones, and basically just like here's a couple tests for you to try in the clinic. And they don't look at it they never look at it that way, right? But once you start providing them something that's quite valuable there, they're you're on par with them. Like you elevate your professionalism. You're not just another, medical drug rep going in there.
That's
Um,
right.
you can really elevate yourself. So that was always most successful for me rather than just talking about like, hey, here's our clinic, this is what we specialize in, blah blah blah. It's like, no, here's some tests that you could do in your practice that could help you out in differentiating some of these things.
Really presenting yourself more as a partner for patient care rather than as a vendor, so to speak, or someone who is
Mhm.
asking them for something.
Yeah. So Maria, obviously you were working, what kind of what years were you working in the practice there, in that particular role?
So I worked for this particular practice at two different times. So the first time I was in the early 2000s,
Hmm.
and then the second time was in the mid like 2016, late, up to 2020.
Okay.
So it was very different, um, as you can imagine, in that 15-year time span,
Right.
because the internet was not nearly as it certainly was there, but it wasn't necessarily, the need to be place that it is
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
and that it was when I was there. So a lot of difference there.
Yeah, I think a lot changed in that 15 years time, right?
Oh, yes,
I think the instead of being the doctor that you went to first, you go to Dr. Google now, right?
that's
And
right.
and I always think the best way to build relationships with physicians is reverse engineering. And so what can you do to bring patients to you from direct to consumer marketing, especially through, digital means, whether it's your website, Google advertising, social media, and they come to you, and there's going to be patients that you need to refer out. And so if you're able to refer patients to physicians to develop a relationship, boy, that's really powerful because doctors want the same exact thing that your practice wants. They want more patients, right? They want
That's
patients to
right.
treat. So if you can provide that to them and show that you're a strategic ally, that's a great way to build a relationship. But that's why we work so hard here, practice promotions, to really empower our clinics to go direct to consumer because it gives them a lot of freedom to build their business without having to rely on doctor referrals so much, but then it also helps them build relationships with doctors from having those patients come to them first.
Exactly. And direct access has changed a lot
Sure
since
has.
that time too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really the power is within the patient now as to who they choose. They are going to consider their doctor referrals, but they have the power to choose whoever they want. So it's important to connect on all levels with the patient, not just assume that because their doctor is referring them that that's an automatic in.
Hmm. Did you ever hear from doctors or patients? I was always surprised at this, but especially like a busy orthopedic office or something like that. Um, my thought was always that, hey, they're gonna, tell them where exactly they need to go, right? And
Yes,
sometimes that's the case, but a lot of times they get like a list of like, hey, here's some places for you to call.
that's exactly right. I've seen printed out lists of the places that they want you to go to. So yeah,
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
Yeah, and so then the patient's going to do their due diligence. Where are they going to go? They're going to go right onto Google, and they're going to look up these different places. They're going to look at the reviews, they're going to look at what it's like there. They're going to look at their website, and then that's going to help them like start to reach out to just a couple of the places. So, um, your online brand presence really dictates, even though
The
those
close.
doctors are making a referral, they're not going to choose your clinic, if you don't have a very good, strong brand presence, because the patient
Especially
has
if
the
they can't
choice.
find you.
Right. Yeah, if you're down there
They
on the
can't
bottom of
find.
Google, yeah,
Yeah,
they're going to be choosing that clinic. And I always tell practices this too, like, um, if you're a patient, you get that list from the doctor, you've got like five places that that are recommended. You go right on your phone and you start looking. And if that clinic, boom, they have the Google ads. They're right at the top of Google. They're right there in the maps section. They also have a sponsored ad in the maps section. So now there's three things you've seen of their name, and then they're also in that top 10. So as you scroll, you keep seeing this name over and over again of this clinic that matches what the doctor says. You know what? I'm going to call them first, right? And that's usually the things like the first place that they call. And if they have a good front desk, they're
they're
converted,
going to get
right?
that patient.
Yeah. So it really is about the how many times you can be on page one of Google that counts. And that's why it's so important to really look at doing Google ads. Make sure you have good SEO to be in that map section and organic section, because the more times that you are on the page one of Google, those people are going to choose you 9 times out of 10.
Yep,
So
very
you
true.
obviously done a lot of different actions here in that marketing role. What were some of the things that didn't work?
Open houses. Did not have very good luck with open houses.
Okay.
We tried that on multiple occasions at different times and in different time periods, and at different clinics, and
Hmm.
they just weren't successful. It was really hard to get people to show up, even if you had goodies and activities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They just didn't come. We might get a scatter. I think the most successful one I saw was in the city, of Charlottesville, which is, a good small city. I think we had like maybe five people show up, and only one of them was a physician. Um,
Yeah.
so
And you
yeah,
can run patient appreciation days and things like that. But I mean, honestly, if my dentist ran a patient appreciation day, I'm not going to show up. I don't have time for that, you know?
no,
Um,
especially, it's after work, you want to go home or go out
right.
to get some food, and it's not on top of your list of things you want to do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, I mean, maybe a new clinic opening or something like that, if you can make a big deal out of it, right? Ribbon cutting and all that kind of jazz.
sure, sure.
Um,
That's different.
that's
That's
different.
different. If you do have an opening, absolutely, I would say do it, and invite people in your neighborhood and your community, to come and visit, and have your friends come out support you. But don't expect, I mean, that's one thing when you're opening up a new clinic, but don't expect people to stop what they're doing or change their plans to come to an open house,
Hmm.
once you're an established clinic.
Gotcha. And so, if you were obviously you worked for a 7 location practice there, but if you were advising a practice owner with a single or multi-location clinic who wants to enhance what they're doing for their physician referral program, or even just start on that, what would your suggestions be to them?
So I would recommend, again, be strategic in who you call on, make friends with the gatekeeper, um, schedule lunch and learns, if you can. Those are really important. Um, Make sure that when there's a new physician in the area that you call on them if they're, in your wheelhouse of what you treat, and make a schedule of who you're going to call on and when, and be consistent.
Hmm. And then when you were doing it, did you, as you're being strategic, you obviously must have had like tracking and everything that you did there
Yes.
to know like who you visited at what time and when you need to go back. Was it like a spreadsheet you did there, or did you use some kind of system?
It was basically two things. I used a spreadsheet to keep track of my contacts, but I also had everybody mapped out in a calendar.
Mhm. Good
So,
idea.
say for example, I would call on X medical group, on this day of the month, and I would also pick the days knowing that if they had, days that were better than others for one reason or another, to call on and specific times. Once you get to know the practice and you don't want to show up if you're trying to talk to, say, for example, a restaurant owner, you're not going to show up at noon when they're open, doing lunch. You
Yeah.
know, you want to make sure that you know the practice and their time schedule, and what's best for them.
Mhm.
So you're not being interfering with their day. You're bringing something of value to their day.
Gotcha. I'm curious, did you ever like work with the PTs or OTs in the clinic to like leverage them and the patient for the relationship with the doctor? Like, hey, we've got this doctor, we're really trying to build this relationship. Can you know,
Oh, absolutely.
get a
Oh, yeah.
testimonial or something from them? Like, how did that
Yes.
work?
That was actually getting the PTs or the OTs involved, was incredibly powerful in terms of marketing. I tried not to lean too much on them because they are busy with patient care, but I was fortunate in that we had a really good team, and the leaders within the clinics and the clinic directors, they had their quotas too. So they had a vested interest in making sure that they had patients coming in and the referrals were working. So absolutely.
Yeah,
That's great.
got to use your team, right?
Absolutely. And they're the ones with the credibility.
Right. Yeah. I know in our clinic, like we would like, hey, so and so just came in from this referral, or we get them from a different, referral source, but we know that their primary care doctor is such and such, and hey, we want to develop that relationship. So we know you put like a little, yellow sticker or whatever it was in the file at that time before we were doing, fully electronic. But the everybody would know in the office, right? Like the front desk would know, the the PT would know. And the goal there was like, hey, we're trying to once you get good results with the patients, they want to help you. So you just let the
Hmm.
patient know, like, hey, we're trying to build a relationship with your doctor. Would you mind giving them a call? Just to kind of let them know and thank them, right? So because the doctor's office, they love being thanked, right? And
Oh, they
so
do.
that's what you're trying to build, that relationship, and the patient is really the main source for them as credibility. So if the patient's going back and saying, wow, I had this amazing experience, thank you so much for referring me, that helps a tremendous amount in the goodwill
Absolutely.
and sticking in the mind of the referral coordinator or the even the physician at that point. And I would say too, like, we would do some extra updates and notes and reports back to the physician for, again, if we were trying to build that relationship with the doctor. Um, Obviously you just have your normal evaluation, progress report, and discharge notes, but those things tend to get just filed in a patient chart and not all the time seen by the doctor unless it needs a specific signature. A lot of times you could just give like, but if you sent like a progress update, which was to me was like, I would just fax over like a letter, right? And it would just be basically like one, maybe two paragraphs in there, keep it super short. And it's just uh mostly subjective with a little bit of an objective, like, so and so, thank you so much for sending so and over. She's making great progress. Her pain has decreased from a 9 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10. We're making good progress here. Her strength's increased and she's able to walk a little bit better now. And so that kind of stuff will be read more by the nurse or the physician. So we would definitely do update more, progress updates on a consistent basis. So that's a good tip for our listeners out there. If you're trying to develop a good relationship with the doctor, just send some more stuff to them, right? And if that patient can get a review out of them, a testimonial, send that review, send that testimonial, thank the doctor for the referral. And, that's going to keep building your relationship with them.
Absolutely. again, just emphasizing the partnership there.
Absolutely. And so, for you, um, as you've worked both, obviously marketing director and now like working with a healthcare marketing agency, and you've worked to be a digital account manager supporting our clients, and now you're in our business development role. So you've kind of seen a lot of different varieties in this spectrum here. Um, what would you say if working with a marketing director in a clinic? So if you were back there, like how important would it be to leverage, say, marketing agency or an outside support for your job?
Oh, I think it's critical, and this is why. It's really two different jobs that you have when you're talking about a marketing coordinator and a digital agency, because you're talking about two different ways of, kind of i- creating the entire ecosystem that you need to keep patients coming back in the door. So the agency can't do the footwork, right?
Hmm.
They can't do the community and the relationship building that you can as a marketing coordinator or as a practice owner. But you also can't do what the agency can do, which is to streamline the process, making sure that you are there and visible and accessible, and converting these people once they find your website, that your website is engaging, that it gets the information that people need, and that makes it easy for them to be able to contact you and make an appointment. Because at the end of the day, if they're not contacting you to make an appointment, it, it's all for naught.
Hmm.
So, having the reputation is important, but you also need to have the visibility and, the strength of your marketing, and also be able to reach out to your past patients. And doing that through an agency makes it a lot more efficient, than trying to do it all on your own as
Yeah. There's a lot of jobs there, right? There's a lot of
you
techniques and
can't, yeah.
technical things that need to happen. And I've been shocked to see some larger clinics that really need a medical, marketing director, and the owner's trying to do it all. Right? They're trying to do marketing, they're trying to run the clinic, they're trying to like treat patients, do all these kind of things.
And run the
And
business.
then yeah, you can't do it all, right? And sometimes as a practice owner, you can be the bottleneck, right? So
That's right.
you know, and then I get the question like, oh, should I, hire you guys or the marketing agency instead of a marketing director? And I'm like, no, you need both, right? You need both. Just as you said, you need that person inside of the clinic. They're the coordinator, they're the project manager for your marketing efforts in the practice. They need to get the stories and the creative and the content from what's happening within the clinic, right? All the patient success stories and things that are they're happening there. They need to build the relationships with the physicians and the clinic managers and all this, action that needs to happen there. So there's a lot of activities that need to be coordinated and happening from the marketing within the clinic. But I've also seen it where practice owner has a marketing director and they just say, "Hey, you're going to do everything." And I don't think that's fair, because now you have this marketing director that you expect him to be, a website expert, an SEO expert, an ads expert, a social media expert, a content writer expert, a sales physician
You better be
liaison. I mean,
paying
it's
them a
like,
hundred thousand dollars a year to be able to do all of that.
yeah, you just can't, right? So you
Exactly.
you, you need the blend of both. So you want to be going direct to consumer. That's where you need to have, a very powerful website, good SEO, advertising that's occurring both on, Google Ads, and then if you want to do social, media marketing and ads that way. So you need technical people for that, and that's where if you have an outside source, your marketing director can, rely on those technical people to fulfill the needs there, and they can be coordinating that plus the actions within the clinic to have that nice marriage. And I think, you've had very successful clients, and would you say that your most successful clients are the ones that kind of bridge that gap between what's happening in the clinic with that marketing coordinator and then leveraging us for the technical aspect?
Absolutely. It is incredibly difficult to run a practice, treat patients, be your own marketing person. Having a marketing coordinator in the practice to basically spearhead all of the projects that you want to get done, stay on track of the goals for your practice, which you need to constantly be mindful of and where your progress is in that goals. And then having that person being able to partner with the agency that is getting leads through the door is really critical. So absolutely. It's really a combination of both. And the most successful practices that I worked with had that point person who really made the time and made that their job, if it, or that was their job, their full-time job, to be that point of contact and to do the marketing on the community end.
And I know for us too, like when we have a great marketing coordinator in the clinic, and they're awesome about getting visuals and creative content and success stories from patients. It makes our ability to market their clinic much more powerful.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that's our
having
top
original
clients.
content is huge. It
Mhm.
makes a huge impact on the marketing. So you need to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like if you want to, if you're looking into the future, right? And if you're practice owner and you say, hey, in 2 or 3 years time, I want to double the size of my clinic. I want to grow here, but I want to do it without killing myself and having a burnout and have more freedom from this expansion. You're going to have to look at what you need to do to double your marketing efforts, right?
That's
And
right.
a lot of times you can't do it all yourself, right? And so if you don't have that marketing coordinator in the clinic, but you're trying to grow your business, to $1 million, multi-million dollar practice, you're going to need someone in that role, right? You're going to need someone who can lead the ship. I would advise when you are looking for a person in that role that you're very careful about crafting what's your ideal person going to be. And I would advocate that you're really looking for a project manager, coordinator, marketing person, right? Don't look for someone who's like super creative and loves to design things, because what you're going to get is someone who sits behind the desk and wants to do social media posts or wants to just write newsletters. And that's not what you need in that role. You need someone who can go out and work with your team and again pull all those stories and connections together from within the clinic, and then coordinate all these other marketing activities, work with a local agency or a marketing agency like Practice Promotions to get the results, right? Because then if that person is super creative, they're going to want to do creative stuff and it might look good, but then all the coordination is back on you as the owner,
Exactly.
right?
Yes. You've only solved one problem and fulfilled one need instead of having someone who is spearheading all of the efforts that need
Absolutely.
to take care of. Yeah,
So, Maria, thank you so much for helping us understand what made you successful in your role there as a marketing coordinator and the physician relationships and the community relationships that you were able to build there. Do you have any final words of advice for our audience?
I do. I just want to say when you look at hiring an agency, I think about choosing your marketing partner wisely. If you were using an agency as a physical therapist or a chiropractor or a medical, clinic, do they specialize? Is the agency you're looking at specialize in marketing for healthcare professionals? Do they understand and meet the requirements of HIPAA and other regulatory bodies that you need to follow? Do they have a proven track record of success and provide clear reporting? And will they work closely with you or your marketing team?
Mhm.
So, those are all questions you need to ask yourself before you make any commitments to
Yeah.
working with an agency.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's, oh gosh, everybody and their mother's doing digital marketing today, right? And
Absolutely.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of local agencies, and we've seen clients that have left us to a cheaper local marketing agency, and then they come back, right? And it's
Hmm.
because they weren't getting the results. Because you got to know the industry, right? You got to know the type of people that you're trying to connect with, and have the specialists for that. And that's it's like if you were in a PT clinic and there's all kinds of different services within that. So, a coffee shop, a smoothie shop, and PT, like it doesn't go all together, right? And you can't go to
Right.
like a local agency that's doing like lawn care services, HVAC, and then a PT in the local area. So they got into the lingo, they got to know the language. We're a pretty unique industry in terms of rehabilitation. So it's knowing what's going to work for that. And like you said, there's a lot of things in healthcare that we have to abide by more so with HIPAA and regulatory and PIPEDA in Canada. So there's systems that you need in place that are more secure for that to happen and the processes that need to happen. So that might not be happening at your local level. But
Absolutely.
Maria,
And
thank you.
curating content too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you got to speak to the patients, right? What's
That's right.
special about what you can offer. So awesome. Well, thank you, Maria, for your insights here, and we
Oh,
love having
thank
you
you,
on the
Neil. It
team.
was a pleasure.
Yeah, excellent. And so to our audience out there, thanks for following us. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast, to our YouTube channel, and our social media channels. Lots of great tips and advice that we're constantly putting out there for you to be successful in your practice. So Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions here, and I'm wishing you much success in your practice.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. Don't forget to get your free practice marketing sample kit at practicepromotions.net/kit. Start 2024 off the right way by building marketing systems that automatically attract new patients from online. That's practicepromotions.net/kit.